I got a super official looking blazer. Yeah. There we go. Now I mean business. Okay, I think the slides go like that. Yeah. Sweet. Awesome. Hello there, human beings. Wow, there are significantly fewer of you than there were this morning. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your dogged determination to stick around for the beers tonight. I'm going to make this cool. I'm going to make this fun and fast. I'm Rachel Lee. Thank you, Jason, for the introduction. This is actually version 3 of the talk. Things have been moving so fast. I started this talk back at the start of the year, and it has gone through many different iterations since then. Come on now. I know you can do. Oh, you're backwards. That makes sense. There we go. Brilliant. So, you may know me from working on the standards that powers today's webs. I've worked with Mozilla on Firefox DevTools, the W3C collaborating on standards, and even Microsoft's Edge browser, but you probably know me most from my work with the React team over the pandemic. Dan Abramov and I made React.dev. It was our pandemic baby. So, before my big tech career, though, I made comics for teenage girls, and they were syndicated on a platform that was supported by ads. I had 400,000 weekly readers, and I got paid a small pittance for that. So my first site was actually to help bring together my audience members. It was a Drupal portal. Anybody here ever build with Drupal? Yeah! I also use WordPress from time to time. So anyway, I used this portal to bring together young women who loved manga and comics and wanted to make their own. And that's how I got started building the web. But lately, I can go an entire day without opening a browser. This is me looking up puzzle solutions to blueprints. Does anyone here play blueprints? Avert your eyes if you haven't gotten to the third ending. Anyway, this is me using Goose, which I've wired up to use Tavily search, and I could ask it for game hints as I went along. I didn't need to visit IGN. I didn't need to watch walkthrough videos. I was literally asking this agent to go out and do work for me. All right. So interestingly enough, non-human traffic is up 18% from the same period last year, and rising. And AI-based search providers like Perplexity are even impacting traffic. Recently, there were some hearings with the FTC where Eddie Q from Apple attested that searches on Safari dipped for the first time, and largely blamed AI and tools like Perplexity and ChatGPT for this, as people are turning increasingly to answer boxes rather than milling through search results. So how did we end up with the web that we have today? How did we end up in this situation? Well, let me introduce you to this word, Inshitification. So platforms happened. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Amazon. People moved off of their blogs and forums and their Drupal sites and their WordPress sites, and they moved onto platforms like YouTube, where they could get the network effects of high foot traffic. And then they were held hostage. They couldn't leave. Once they were there, they were subject to the algorithm, and the once favorable systems that brought them there then trapped them. But they couldn't leave. And this term, by the way, Inshitification, it was coined by Cory Doctorow, and it's used to describe the life cycle that I just described for you there of platforms from Amazon to TikTok, even to Walmart. You can totally see how Walmart would do this. I'll break it down for you. Does anybody here ever visit Walmarts? Okay, I see. So Target people then, or Costco. There you go. Yeah, Costco. Costco, go Costco. So anyway, I'll use a Walmart example rather than Facebook ads. But this applies for everything from Facebook ads to Kindle publishing to YouTube videos to Instagram. But basically, step 1. You acquire the most customers by directing any profits you have to them until they're locked in. So you lower your prices, even below your competitors. You lower it down so people have to come there. You give people really good deals on advertising so that, like for the longest time, Facebook ads, great value for money compared to Google ads, more targeted, better turnover, et cetera, or conversion. Step 2. Now that you got the customers, you attract the suppliers. Well, we have all these people shopping at Walmart, so you want to get into Walmart, right? You want to come here. We got all these deals. We're going to get your product on the shelf. You know, you want to advertise on Facebook, we've got all these coupons that'll give you like the first 3 months free, and then you get all those people in, right? And then once both users and suppliers are locked in, they're unable to leave thanks to network effects. The hardware store isn't there anymore. The grocery store isn't there anymore. Everyone who wants to sell something has to be in your store now. So what do you do with your profits? You direct them to the shareholders. And all those good, sweet things you used to lure in those two parties go bye-bye. And that's what Inshitification is. Answering the age-old question, what comes between collecting underpants and profit? It is collect suppliers. Anyway. Platforms promise the ease of consolidated interactions. They promise great discovery, great user experience, but to keep users captive, they purposely lack interoperability. They held content hostage with pricey or no APIs. It used to be you could play video games on Facebook. Not possible anymore. Those APIs are locked down. You're not going to be playing Farmville on Facebook anymore. They want you to stay there, and they start betting on algorithms that increase internal engagement. So you linking to a journalistic argument? No, 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 no. No. You saying something bombastic that gets a bunch of people falling for your rage bait? Yes, please, more of that. Okay, so they're hoarding their data, they're hoarding their users. And this means right now to get anything done, in this case, this is an example of me doing some work to collect news articles about the agentic web to share with a team. I now have an agent doing this for me, but bear with me. This is the old way. This means that to get anything done on the internet, like on social platforms, at scale, we have to flip between a bajillion different platforms. Got to go to like X and Blue Sky and, sorry, Twitter. And if we want an aggregated experience, either we have to get all our friends to go use the thing that we're using. Hey, you should join Blue Sky. We're all in Blue Sky now until something bad happens to that platform. Or we have to pay to use an aggregated experience. In this case, I use Buffer to push content out across all of those. Wonderful. To escape the platforms, I need yet another platform. Lovely. All right. So organizations, I don't know if you noticed this. This is a little dog shelter near me in London, Battersea. They're really renowned. They don't have an API. They don't have a login. They just want you to come get the doggies. So they just publish the dogs. This is all they can do. They have an email newsletter list, and they have a page with dogs on it. No API. They don't have that many tech support. They don't have a gated community. And they just have to, you know, the rest of us, we just have to dump our information online and cross our fingers that users can find us. Or we have to, you know, give up and engage on platforms. And the Inshitification, it runs deep. If the internet is this vast sea of unstructured or gated content with spotty and clunky interoperability at best, why are we still using a browser built by an ads company to navigate it? If you think that, oh, well, it's not that bad, it's 70% of the market share, guys. Like, Chrome owns 70%. Oh, wow, that's a lot of animation I did. Excuse me. There we go. It's the top dog. It's had no major interface changes aside for Gemini, which just launched like 2 days ago, only in America. No screenshots for people who live in London, I suppose. But no major interface changes aside from, you know, a few facelifts here and there for the past 5 years. And it almost got sold off to Perplexity. Phew. Got to keep it. Now, sir, I want to put this into perspective here, because we've known the Google platform, Chrome platform team, and Google's developer advocates to be good friends of the open web, and that is true. Google does a very good job of hiring great altruists who believe in championing the community. But let's be honest, Google's top of funnel is search. This is what funnels money through ads, which is their moneymaker, right? So the search team needs to funnel users to ads. And for people to use search, they need to have a really good experience visiting websites. Those sites need to be competitive with apps, hence the huge investment in building a browser back during the era of IE6, because IE6 was just not providing a great experience for the web. Couldn't make the web competitive, couldn't drive money to search, couldn't drive money to ads. And to make a great browser and a great platform, we have the wonderful people at the web platform working on APIs, standards, and W3C and TC39. These teams don't always want the same things. and often are at conflict with one another's values. You could say that Google has been trying to replace the web for many years. Does anyone remember AMP? All right, for those of you who are blessed to be so young, this stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages. And what it did was, if you, as a creator, like the iPhone came out, and suddenly Google's like, oh my God, people are going to use apps. We can't sell ads on apps. What do we do? Well, let's create Android. Okay, let's do that. Well, what do we do to make sure that the web with its like 5 megabyte pages is actually useful on these? What if we create a domain like google.search, and people could just upload their content to it. We'd strip out all that pesky CSS and unoptimized JavaScript, and we would just link to that. We'll just create a shadow of the internet. And people who do that, we're going to give them higher rankings in the search results. And that was a thing. They created like a copy of the internet and favored folks for it. This is something that search and ads wanted because they wanted to keep people on the web using apps. AMP was not web standards friendly, but fortunately, AMP did get pulled back and shut down because we build a really efficient web, and devices are very good at picking it up now. But nowadays, visiting the web isn't even necessary with AI-enhanced Google search. If you're looking to that solution in Blueprints, you can just read the AI-generated summary. By the way, this is wrong. There is no black key puzzle. It just totally hallucinated that. Thank you. But you could just read the AI-generated summary. You don't need to visit IGN. You don't need to do any of that. Search and ads are still getting fed, but the creator whose content created this, they're not getting any ad revenue. They're not making any affiliate link sales and no subscription income. At Google I/O, Google made it clear that it is betting on an agentic web. And you can say that for the past, Google has been stewarding the open web precisely because it supports its sales model. That model is about to change. And all of this begs the question of, with the monopoly and the control over the supply and the consumption, is Chrome the new IE6? We've been here before. And is the internet we've built with Google the internet we actually wanted when we started this journey? So the web is changing, and we are changing with it. Our behavior and what we build soon is changing. So far, the web has mostly had 2 kinds of traffic. Human, we're looking at things, we're reading them, we're scrolling through someone's entire life story to figure out how to make chicken soup. The best use of the agentic web, by the way, is to summarize recipes. Now, the other kind of user is a crawler. And for a long time, we only really had like a handful of crawlers to care about. I think we remember Lycos. One of them is the Google crawler. Search engine optimizers love Google's crawler because when the Google crawler comes, it's like Santa coming to town. Are we going to bump up the Google search ranking? Yeah, we're going to be higher towards that first page now that we have to compete with ads for that first screen. It's more important than ever before. But now we have a lot more of those crawlers. But we also have agents. Agents are a little weird. They're not a crawler. They're not a human. They are a crawler-like creature that performs tasks on behalf of humans. They are not swayed by your ads, but they really can't tell the difference between your 2011 diffs post and a Consumer Reports review. So just keep that in mind. They don't have discernment yet. So upstarts and startups like Dia and Strawberry, and even big browsers like Opera, are also building AI browsers. I think of them as kind of like Borg browsers because they've got agents. These browsers are agents, but they have a human visible window attached. This is an example of Strawberry browser. Strawberry is built by a lovely team of 3 Swedish people, and they're a lot of fun. And I really love that they've been thinking about like a business use case and what a browser could do to automate, for instance, generating dashboards. I wanted to show that off. I used Comet to reach out to connect with everybody speaking at this conference. I'm face blind, so this did a really good job of going through my LinkedIn and reminding me who people were and saying, I'm looking forward to meeting you. If you got that message from me, I'm sorry, it was an agentic message. But the truth is, I remembered a lot more people when I came this time, so thank you for bearing with me. But this begs the question, are we even going to need a browser? I don't have to look at the agent when it's doing these things. So why would I need a browser with the agent? Why wouldn't I just use Claude? We went through this once before, by the way. With the advent of mobile phones, we worried that the web would just become a data layer. And in October 2016, mobile traffic surpassed desktop traffic for the first time. And it's only been continuing to move in that direction. People use the desktop browser to do work, and they use mobile apps to do pretty much everything else. Only a small percentage of fun happens on the internet anymore, and that would explain why I don't see as many cool sites like Atoms anymore. So yeah, apps use the same protocols and infrastructures to shift information that the web does. And now people on phones spend more time in them than they do on browsers. So ostensibly, that's because apps offer a richer, nicer experience. But what is more rich and adaptable than a personal agent designed to accommodate your needs? And that includes accessibility needs as well. Let's talk a little bit more about this. This is how I regularly scan the industry for job opportunities that I really want. It uses Notion and Claude, and I have had better luck with this than using anything that LinkedIn has offered. I think I recently ended up in a flight of 9 different opportunities and managed to land 2 of them, which is pretty good given how terrible it is in the hiring market right now. Take that, LinkedIn Premium. Anyway, it's a pretty clunky, basic experience, but if I can do this, what can your grandma do? I did a hackathon with one of my clients, AgentQL. AgentQL is a little tool that allows, back in the day when Claude didn't have an ability to interact with the web, you could give it AgentQL and it could. And this is I took it to a hackathon, and Carl made this voice-based browser that you could operate with no hands, and it would talk to you, and you could talk back to it. And this is something we usually think of as like, that's accessibility, and someone's going to use a screen reader, and you need to why ARIA tags. No, you don't, actually. Turns out that LLMs are pretty darn, you wire up some LLMs with some APIs, and they're pretty darn good at looking at the site and going, that div that says click me, I think that's interactive. I think if you want me to, I'll click it. So I'm just saying, we've got a whole new era ahead of us with adaptive UX, where you can generate UI on the fly. This is Elcar from Star Trek. It's not actually user-friendly. This is what happens when you allow a designer to go crazy with Adobe After Effects. But the idea is that on Star Trek, this UI would adapt to whatever information the person had requested to see on the fly. And we have throwaway UI today with like bolt.new, Vercel's v0. It's cheaper than ever to throw together UI, especially if you're working backwards from a design system and a user need. So agents use the web as the API, and they can replace both apps and browsers. They're the ultimate client. But there are 5 capabilities that are currently en route before we're going to see a complete replacement of either of these modalities. But when they're solved, the browser as we know it is not going to exist anymore. At least that's my take. We'll see many talks about this in the next coming years, or the next year or 2. So this is a taster and gives you an idea of what you might want to check out and pay attention to. So here's the 5 pillars. Number 1, interoperability. This is like the furthest along. We got MCP, we got ACP, well, actually ACP and agent to agent just merged. So it's just agent to agent now. Good. I love seeing consolidation of protocols. That is a good sign that we're on the right track. On-device AI, local models are faster and cheaper. I've seen a lot of, let's just send this off to ChatGPT in the talks that I've experienced on the road. And that's cool. It's cool, bro. But did you know you can probably do that with something that's like only 2 gigabytes? I mean, Jason Mays here knows. He was talking about this at the opening. But I'm just saying, SLMs, they are your friend. Just remember it. Identity and authentication. Okay, you have a little robot pretending to be you online. That's going to go wrong. You definitely need to be able to say, this is my assistant. Treat them like an intern. Don't tell them where the fuse box is. And compensation. Okay, so we just broke advertising. Boo frickin' who. As a cartoonist who had most of their money funneled off through ads to other parties, I wanted micropayments from day one. I've been waiting 2 decades for them. It took breaking advertising as a model for this to come around. Thank you. I think that's a good thing for the web. I'm happy. But yes, we'll have to talk access fees, subscription models, micropayments, all the things that should have been baked into the web from the beginning, but people believe data, and that means IP should be free. Now, and the last one, this is actually weirdly the hardest one, but also the one that's been solved. I'll tell you about that later. Discovery and discernment. They ain't that smart. They don't know what you're going to like. They don't have built-in recommendation engines, but they have access to all the information you'll give them. Seems like you could have something on device that knows you better than yourself but doesn't share that with anybody. Now, let's talk interoperability. It's the big key because right now we have something called function calling or tool use. If you use Claude, I'm a Claude person. It's a feature that allows large language models and their agents to connect to external tools and APIs. The problem with tool use is you have to build a special one. You know, like you build a tool for Claude. But what if you're a provider? You're not going to provide special tools for every freaking model that's out there. That's a terrible idea. Or what if you've got a Claude agent, you need to talk to someone's ChatGPT agent? So you need better modalities for one-to-one agent communication, and that's what we have 11 plus protocols in the running for agent-to-agent communication for. MCP, agent-to-agent, and NAP. Right now, it's kind of neck and neck between MCP and agent-to-agent. But watch them both eat popcorn. It's like watching the W3C and the WG go at it in the old days. Like, you'll win, it'll be fine. Trust the process of standards, crazy and messy as it is. Now, we talked a little bit about sustainable AI. Is anybody here really concerned about the environmental impact of artificial intelligence? Good. You should be, because the more we use, it's kind of like the law of demand. The more we use, even though it's a fraction of our energy and water consumption today, and I'm sure we will be doing it more efficiently in the future, the more we use, and it will grow. So the truth is that the only sustainable AI is smoother AI, which happens to be the better option for consumers. Because guess what? Running a little model locally means better latency, more responsiveness, and better security. It's the easy choice for business because now you're not being charged for API calls that round trip and take a long-ass time to come back to your user. And it's the best choice for your users as well. All right. Now, I also want to point out that NVIDIA did a study that found that SLMs, small language models, are sufficiently powerful, suitable, and more economical than LLMs or their larger cousins in systems where agents repeatedly perform specialized tasks, like a personal agent would. You do not need to share your information with OpenAI. That's good news. Now, this is an example of all these SLMs that are available to you right now to run on your desktop and your phone. In fact, speaking of phones, if you love Pixels, this is the Pixel 10. It's the first phone that ships with an SLM right on it from Google. That's the whole reason why I bought it, not because I love the color of its case. So anyway, most SLMs for mobile or web, they're deployed with quantization, which can have or quarter the disk memory space that they require. So this graph here, this is like the upward bound. We're talking, you can give a very nice little model like Tiny Llama or Gemma for like 2 to 4 gigabytes, most. Okay. We talked a little bit about identity. Identifying traffic is coming from an agent, and if that agent has a subset of permissions and access, is the current big challenge. We've been solving this with like OAuth 2, et cetera. Like, this is not an unknown area. This is just busy work that we have put off as a community because it was never, we always had some service we could reach for, and now we finally have to get our butts around to coming up, oh, I guess we've got to implement OAuth 2, oh no. Anyway, the point is, these are not new challenges. We've been working on solving them forever, and they're taking priority now. And you've got companies like Arcade that are focusing more on what the agent is allowed to do with tools and authorization, and how it chooses tools more efficiently. Like the startup community in SF is just all over a lot of these harder, tougher challenges at the end here, like payments. So ads only work with human eyes. The ad-supported web is currently broken. Even my friends who are great YouTube influencers have noticed a dip in traffic. And that's kind of scary, right? What happens when people aren't watching your tutorial videos with their lunch? Oof. Okay. So There's a great article from Stratechery about, and I highly recommend you give it a read, about how the protocol layer should have a mechanism for payments built into it. That AI should build on an auction mechanism that pays out content sources based on the frequency with which they are cited in AI answers. And to be honest, it also points out that we already have the technology for doing this, powering ads. Every time you see an ad, there are 100 little bids happening behind the scene to be done. The only issue is that that process is currently proprietary and kept behind a gated curtain at Google. So we already have built these systems. Facebook has these systems. We just need to implement them in the wild. We have RSL, really simple licensing. It's a new licensing model that Yahoo, O'Reilly, Reddit, and even more publishers have proposed. They haven't waited for publishers to, for AI companies to be like, yes, we agree to this standard. No. They're going to just work with Fastly to be like, your crawler can't visit anything unless you pay through this gateway. Thank you. I love this. I love seeing developers solving for these problems. Like, yes, please, build a standard, and then just carte blanche enforce it. I love that. Beautiful. And of course, payment providers are already coming along. I saw a compelling demo of Skyfire using 402 HTTP requests to charge crawlers a micropayment for accessing an entire website's worth of content. Even big money wants to solve this problem. At last, thankfully, MasterCard announced Agent Pay, AI agent payment framework. I'm like, guys, this is micropayments. OK, thank you. I wanted this. I've wanted this for 20 years. Thank you for finally getting your butt around to it. Now, discernment and discovery are actually already solved. Like, you remember web rings back in the day. I was a member of them. If you were too young to remember them, basically, we would all just link to our besties' websites and hope that you'd go visit them and sign up for their newsletters. Well, Facebook and Google, they do you the favor of using an algorithm to determine what you'd like to see. And they put that on your timeline or in your search results. Now, many people think that Facebook is investing in AI because somehow it's going to allow them to serve better ads or content. No, I'm sorry, but recommendation systems are not generative AI systems. They're just stupid algorithms. They're already perfected, and you're already a slave to them. So they exist. You can incorporate them into your personal agent, and then you can be a slave to your own algorithms. Much better. But doing these things in a decentralized way is challenging. I actually wouldn't be surprised if people sold like entire bundled SLM devices that have really good recommendation engines built into them, like you should use Apple. It shows you the stuff you like. Now, the interesting thing is this is disrupting SEO, because SEO doesn't work with AI the way it does with traditional indexing algorithms that have gotten really good at what they do before they became Inshitified. This means that your Claude agent might take a look at a bunch of pages and mistake the 30th page's worth of results for being accurate, and they were actually published in 2011 by a guy who was completely lying. So this is the challenge. There's a rush of companies trying to capitalize on generative engine optimization. Oh my God, I've heard all the worst acronyms for this. They're still not agreed upon. I think of it as AO, agent optimization, whatever. Point is, TBD, people are still trying to figure out how to cram their ads down your throat with your agent. In the future, what I suspect is that local adaptive recommendation systems will be selling points of devices. And until then, AI answer engines like Perplexity are happy to sell you API access and calls. So we may have to rely on centralized indexes and proprietary algorithms for a bit for discovery and discernment. But this is an area where I think we can do some innovation, and I wouldn't be surprised to see startups cramming into that as soon as those other four are ready. So what people will use to interact over the web might not be called a browser in the future, but it will still be the tool that people use to browse the information superhighway. When those 5 pillars are fulfilled, we're likely to see a personal agent overtake apps, sites, and operating systems. And I predict in this case that browser use is going to drop to business and legacy use cases. You need look no further than Atlassian acquiring Dia's creator, the browser company, for some evidence of this. Think about it. You exit into the terminal to debug a program that's not working. In the future, people may escape into the browser to access a dashboard to debug a workflow that's not working for them. It makes business sense. So yeah, welcome to the era of AI browsing. How do you build for this? Well, tools, this is a great idea. You've heard a lot about Model Context Protocol. What are you going to do with it? Does your product / thing you're building have an API? Great. Set it up as a Model Context Protocol tool. Does your project / thing that you maintain have a lot of resources that are available? Content, videos, images, great. Set it up as an MCP server resource. The end. How do you do that? It sounds complicated, but NL Web just launched at Microsoft Build. It's like an adapter for your content. It's from the creator of RSS and schema.org. And basically, it just adds an MCP server to your site. You can set it up right now. They say it turns it into an AI-powered app. I'm just going to ignore it. MCP server, easy, out of box, go. Don't think, just do. Make LLMs.txt a part of your build process. What's LLMs.txt? Well, it's like a sitemap, but it's written in Markdown. Because agents read Markdown, they don't like XML. That's something I wish we'd all talked about earlier. I like XML. But anyway, agents read Markdown. So you can kind of add that to your build process, and it directs agents to where they can learn. And for content that people might need to feed into an LLM on a case-by-case basis, if you're building a dev tool, for instance, or documentation, a copy to Markdown button is greatly appreciated. When we were working on React.dev, many people said, I would love a button I could press to just download a PDF of everything so I could take it with me when I'm offline. A lot of the times, the accommodations we'll be making for agents are also good accommodations to be making for people, when you think about it. But what about when you're listening to this and you're like, no, bad, no, I don't want that. Sometimes you don't want your content crawled, or you don't want it added to an LLM's training data, or maybe you want to screen agents from sensitive parts and put up a big ol', continue on foot from this part out sign. In this case, robots.txt, it's so good to see you. We used to just use this to be like, hey, Google, don't index this page. Now it is so much more valuable than this. You can use it to tell bots you want to visit, how you want to treat them. If you go to this URL, you'll see a really big robots text boilerplate that will point out the crawlers and agent IDs for all of these bots. And you can decide, for instance, it's fine for agents to visit my site, not okay for crawlers to come and like scrape my site. Nah. Anyway, check it out. But what about those bots and agents who disregard these formalities, the naughty bots? What do we do with them? Well, I'm very happy to show you that developers these days have taken justice into their own hands. You send the naughty bots to the tar pits. Okay, I'm going to leave this one up. Go to visit this URL. It's a lovely Mastodon post about all the ways in which you can send bots that don't respect your boundaries on an expensive goose chase, or poison all the information they're using to train. And this does treat people like, how many of you have built a scraper? Come on, it's okay, no judges. You know that respecting robots.txt is optional. So it's a good idea to understand how to do this, just to be like, if somebody tries to get a little frisky with your content there. All right. So the web still needs engaged developers to push it forward, whether they're building a browser, or they're building their own agents, or they're just building a site that might be visited by said agents. What you can do today, look at small on-device LLMs. They're more economic and secure. Don't reach for the big guy, reach for the little guy that you can run locally. Chrome's been working on APIs that work with these right now. By the way, this is not about AI. This is just about building your own identity that stands independently of a platform. Remember RSS died in 2013? Yeah. Anyway, we now have RSS Part 2, the Authenticated Transfer Protocol, aka @proto. It runs Blue Sky, but you can build a lot of stuff on top of it. It's a decentralized protocol for large-scale social web applications. It means you can have a social ID that you carry with you, like your email address. And if you're thinking of building the next LinkedIn, take a look at this. You might build it on top of this protocol. You're like, who maintains a design system? Come on. Okay. All right, well, maybe the rest of you should consider checking out that. MCP UI, it brings rich components to your agent. So like when you're visiting, by the way, Shopify's gone all in on MCP UI. Here's an example of MCP UI in Perplexity shopping for hotels. These are rich components. It's not all text. You know, right now, it just returns text when you talk to an agent, but you can, with MCP UI, actually stream a rich component in there. Imagine, you know, Uber's going to need to provide a component that shows where your ride is and updates you as to its location. These are written with CSS and HTML and JavaScript. The lingua franca of the web is the lingua franca of personal agent UI. This is great news for us. I am so glad that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript won this, and it's not like Swift UI, okay? So I'm just saying, if you're building components, check out MCP UI, give it a look. All of these things are being developed in the open. Your skills in open standards, APIs, and user-centric design are more valuable than ever before. A lot of people who are working on agents and MCP are the fresh grads. They haven't done all these patterns before. And so your experience is really useful. The MCP has its own working group. You can go jump into the Discord and voice your concerns. If you play with it and you found something difficult, go tell. Get involved. Same with @Proto. They have a working group. They do calls. It's awesome. If you actually use these things in production, give them feedback. It makes it better. And you can influence on-device AI features in web standards. If you go over to Google Chrome's Docs AI, I can't repeat that. Take your pictures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. OK, visit the link. As I've learned from working on web standards, as well as JavaScript frameworks, developers have all the powers. You know, React didn't need W3C permission to get built and become the #1 JavaScript framework and solve things. Well, it didn't solve state, but the TC39 is now solving state. But I've learned that developers have all the power. Developers are not just observers who are consuming what is handed to them. Their feedback makes them the architects. What we build today becomes the standard of tomorrow. The cow paths get paved, and then we can't do anything about them. So here's a little timeline, just in case you're looking at this and like, wow, am I going to have a job next year? You totally will. Allow me to reassure you. So here's where we are right now. We have mobile usage of the web has gone up. Big tech is in charge. Engagement KPIs have driven us into a dark age where there can be genocides committed because of a misplaced Facebook post. There's a rise of walled gardens with data mongers herding everyone onto apps. Users are sold as products, and ads drive the economy. But where are we going now? Things are changing. Notice that little purple line on the bottom there is starting to tick up. This is the non-human traffic on the web. You might be scared by that, but consider that a renaissance is happening. We don't know exactly how it's going to unfold, so I'm just going to make believe some lines from here so you can kind of imagine what this might look like. Here are some ways it can play out from over time. So this would be, you can see that over the next 5 years, frontier models, hey, come back. Come back to me. Oh my God, I'm sorry. But doing, I'm new to animated line graphs. So frontier models, when we say frontier model, we mean ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, the big boys. They become the primary internet entry points. Traditional search becomes secondary to AI overviews. We start making and adjusting our content to appeal to that. Conversational interfaces also become kind of the norm. Browsers still exist, but they're increasingly used less by newer generations as kids start talking to ChatGPT or Claude or Google's AI overviews. And they kind of like the kids who used to think Facebook was the internet. Battles rage and are won over compensation for creators. That's what we can expect perhaps over the next 5 years, right? But then browsers, in 2035, 10 years from now, we're going to see browsers evolved into this agent orchestration layer. You set your intentions, agents handle the execution across multiple tabs using services from APIs to MCP servers. We only duck out when we need to get into the plumbing of it. And the browser just becomes your shared context and control center. Whew. But then, what's the future look like when the browsers actually disappeared in 2040, 15 years from now? I'm sorry, but this is likely. When you look at the numbers from the mobile dev and how it's changed over less time, we'll expect always-on assistants that can see, hear, and remember everything we do, preferably keeping it all on device and not sharing it. Web interaction It becomes invisibly embedded into our everyday activities, and the distinction between browsing the internet, using an app, and doing work or recreation will just completely disappear. You won't be aware you're doing it. Browser will be replaced by a personal agent that escapes into websites when their automation struggles, kind of like we might use a terminal today, or the W3C use the IRC until they finally move to GitHub. So this is not just the death of the browser we're talking about here. We're talking about the death of the search engine, the death of the app store, the death of the social platform, may it rest in peace. But perhaps a return to peer-to-peer communication, perhaps a return to decentralized functionality. Perhaps it's not the death of these things so much as the rebirth of the web. A web where? Magical sounds. Your data stays on your device instead of being sold off to the highest bidder. The experience adapts to you instead of having to constantly nag your front-end developers to remember the why ARIA rules. We'll just be passing streaming content to one another, and the LLM is going to give it to people how they want it. Creators get a fair compensation for their work without having to put annoying banner ads on everything or sell your information. And Interop demolishes the walled gardens and data trafficking that honestly have kind of made the world terrible. And this whole agentic modality corrodes monopolies, especially when the power is put into your personal device. So when you go back to work next week, I ask you to be the herald for your company, for your community, to talk about what to do about the rise in crawler traffic, whether you're going to fight it or you're going to lean into it, whether you're going to build an MCP UI server or a tar pit. Peek around the corner and get into it, because this is coming. And I think the web community would be the perfect partner to be a part of it. And then I can finally update this talk for version 4, because you're not going to be heralding the death of the browser. You're going to be heralding the rebirth of the web. Cheers.